Hey y'all, my name is Hillary Torres and I'm from Georgia. Today I'm going to talk to you about a standard for first grade. Something that's interesting about the school that I work at, it is a charter school. It is called SAIL, School for Arts Infused Learning. Um, as a charter school, we still have to abide by the state standards underneath the state of Georgia. However, we can also incorporate different standards along with our teaching mechanisms and our teaching methods, and we can incorporate Spanish, or we can incorporate a dance lesson, or an art lesson, or a drama lesson. And today, I'm going to specifically talk to you about a standard, unpacking a standard, a first grade standard, which is MGSE1 G1, and it's distinguishing between the defining attributes such as triangles are closed and three-sided versus non-defining attributes such as color, orientation, overall size, build, and drawing shapes to possess defining attributes. Along with that, I'm going to incorporate a fine art standard for first grade, and that is ESD1 CR1, demonstrate an understanding of the choreographic process. And as you can see, I'm not going to read it for you for the sake of time, but it lists different ways underneath the fine art standard to incorporate an understanding of the process. Before I go ahead and unpack the standard of the math lesson and incorporating it into a dance lesson as well, I wanted to show you specifically where I have found my standard. And if you go to this website, the georgiastandards.org, you click on the Georgia Standards of Excellence. And as you can see, you will see all the different standards for the state of Georgia. There's fine arts, physical education, science, social studies, English and language arts, and mathematics. And my main focus is going to be on mathematics and first grade, and it is in Unit 6. And the framework for Unit 6, and it's going to be under the standards for the mathematical practice. And right here, as you can see, distinguish between the defining attributes. All right, so let's start unpacking the standard. As you can see, this is a lesson plan that I have typed on out, and this is something that we actually have done with our first graders. But the content of the whole standard is discussing 2D and 3D shapes. The verbs are the skills that the students are going to acquire. They're going to be able to define, build, and draw the nouns, which are the shapes, the 2D and 3D shapes. And the context is going to be using fine art standards to reinforce the math skills that the students learn. So what are some of the big ideas? They're, like I had mentioned, identify the defining attributes of shapes, build shapes, draw shapes, compose shapes, and then in relation to the fine art standard, also what kind of shapes do we create in dance that we can compare to our math shapes, such as the passe, which is a triangle, and the demi plie, which is a rhombus. So the children, we will have a math lesson one day out of our 5-unit lesson for the week, and we will be meeting with the dance teacher, which the students already did, and with their bodies, they're going to be able to make movements and make shapes with their feet, and they're going to compare those and be able to see contextually how in dance we use our bodies for shapes. So some of the essential questions that along throughout the unit, throughout the whole week, that we will be discussing is how do you distinguish between the defining attributes? The children will be able to show and tell and describe what the differences are between attributes and non-defining attributes. How are you able to draw them? Can you recognize them? Can you point to objects like in our world and associate them to what a 3D shape looks like? And so some, as you can see, some of the 21st century skills that are going to be monopolized on are creativity, collaboration, and communication. And the key vocabulary all throughout the unit that will be discussed are the different names of the shapes, the 2D and 3D shapes. As well as, since we're incorporating it into a fine art standard as well as passe and other dance terms. So the prerequisite skill is at the beginning of the lesson, at the beginning of the week, we'll be able to identify the 2D shapes. And through that, what we will be able to do, as you can see, we will be working in our math workbook one day. So you will have a worksheet for them to help understand the process and the product of understanding shapes. We'll be able to describe it. They can chart it. We'll be able to find it, and we'll make it an activity. We'll be doing mini books, like little mini flat books where they can draw shapes, and we'll play bingo. We'll go on a 2D shape hunt and a 3D shape hunt around this school where they'll be grouped off into teams. And also, this is a great way to differentiate the assignment. If we have one student who's not grasping the concept of shapes, then I can pair them up into a group with students who have maybe a higher thinking process that they can help them to point out and help them to learn more those shapes. So finally, the visual arts connection that we'll be making towards the end of the week is students will use their bodies to create 2D shapes, and they can use their bodies to represent straight sides, and when their bodies connect can represent the vertices, or students can use their joints such as their elbows, knees, waist, and etc. to create the vertices. So and for a reflection and a way to assess them, if you look back at the Georgia Standards website, there are excellent resources where they will give you build a shape, and they'll give you different tasks on how to build a shape. They'll give you different test intervention ways to record and to follow along and to modify and see what the students already know. So that's me unpacking a Georgia standard for first grade, which includes identifying shapes, 2D and 3D shapes, and being able to tell their defining attributes, as well as incorporating it along with my charter school, which is an arts-infused learning school, with a fine art standard for first grade. So as you can see, I have laid it all out, and please feel free to ask me some questions. Thank you so much for your time.